Brandon Drummond, we need you to step outside with us right now.
Excuse me, who are you? What is this?
This is Brandon Drummond. He has been calling himself a dentist for 4 years. In 11 seconds, Georgia Dental Board investigators will prove he never was one.
Georgia Bureau of Investigation, sir. You need to
I
come
have
with us.
patients. I have people waiting. You can't
Sir,
just come in
step
here.
away from the waiting
I
area.
run a licensed practice. I don't know what you
Fine.
think you're doing.
The license number he handed investigators that morning belonged to a 63-year-old retired periodontist named Gerald Mott, who had surrendered his active status in 2019 and hadn't touched a patient since. 4 years, one strip mall office suite in Decatur, Georgia, more than 340 patients, $3.87 million collected, procedures ranging from basic teeth whitening to full porcelain veneers, to extractions he had no clinical training to perform. 114 federal counts, 8 years in federal prison, and a patient roster full of people whose mouths now told the story of what Brandon Drummond had done to them. What investigators found when they walked into that office would take months to fully document. But the first clue, the one that started all of it, was hanging in his waiting room the entire time. Before we continue, have you ever looked up a doctor or dentist before trusting them with your health? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We hold people in positions of trust accountable every single week. Brandon Elias Drummond was born in 1989 in Lithonia, Georgia, a suburban stretch of DeKalb County about 20 miles east of downtown Atlanta. His father, Clarence, drove a city transit bus for MARTA for 22 years. His mother, Vivian, worked as a billing coordinator at a pediatric clinic in Clarkston. Vivian worked at the kitchen table most evenings after dinner, insurance coding, denied claims she disputed line by line. Brandon used to pull up a chair and watch. He was 12, 13 years old. He absorbed something from those evenings, not the diligence, but the architecture of the system. The credentials that unlocked everything. The credentials that nobody really checked. He graduated from Stevenson High School in Stone Mountain in 2007. He enrolled at Georgia Perimeter College, withdrew on academic probation, re-enrolled in 2010, and withdrew again 2 years later without a degree. In 2013, at 23 years old, Brandon Drummond took a job as an unlicensed dental assistant at a cosmetic dental practice in Chamblee. No certification was required under Georgia law at the time. He was making $14.50 an hour. He seated patients, prepped trays, mixed impression material, and handed tools to the attending dentist. He watched every procedure. He asked more questions than any assistant the practice had ever employed. He stayed late to clean equipment. His employment records, pulled by investigators years later, contained a single performance note dated November 2015. Shows genuine interest in clinical procedures, asks more questions than most assistants, occasionally oversteps role boundaries, reminded twice about scope of practice limitations. He stayed at that practice for 4 years. In 2017, Brandon began researching what people on social media were calling veneer techs, practitioners marketing cosmetic smile transformations without the formal structure of licensed dentistry. It was an emerging gray zone, growing fast on Instagram and YouTube, filled with before and after photos and weekend certification seminars and the language of accessibility. Anyone could learn this. It was just a skill. Brandon attended 2 weekend seminars in Miami billed as dental aesthetic certification courses. He ordered a composite bonding kit from a dental supply wholesaler using the Chamblee Clinic's account number without authorization. He left the practice in late 2017. He did not give 2 weeks' notice. In January 2018, Brandon Elias Drummond opened Drummond Aesthetic Dental Studio in a leased commercial suite off Covington Highway in Decatur. He signed a 3-year lease. He had the waiting room painted a clean, clinical white. He ordered business cards that read, Dr. B. Drummond, DDS. He built a website. He ran targeted Instagram ads across DeKalb and Fulton County. And he hung a framed diploma on the wall, directly in the sightline of every patient who sat down. The Georgia Dental Practice Act requires a doctor of dental surgery or Doctor of Dental Medicine degree from an accredited institution. It requires passage of the National Board Dental Examinations and a regional clinical examination. It requires active licensure from the Georgia Board of Dentistry, renewed biennially. License numbers are public record. Georgia's enforcement model is primarily complaint-driven. Without a formal patient complaint or a practitioner referral, unlicensed providers can operate without triggering a board inspection. In 2018, the cosmetic smile industry, veneer techs, whitening studios, smile makeover pop-ups, was growing faster than any regulatory framework could track. Dozens of operators were marketing procedures that crossed clinical lines with no agency specifically watching. Brandon understood this. He had absorbed it from his mother's kitchen table years before, that the system ran on paperwork, and the paperwork ran on trust. He needed a license number to open a supply account with a dental distributor. He searched the Georgia Board's public licensure database. He found number 018847, listed under a Dr. Gerald Mott of Augusta, Georgia. Mott was a periodontist who had let his active license lapse but had not yet formally submitted a retirement declaration. His status showed as inactive, not revoked. His number was still live. Brandon entered it on his supply account application. The distributor's automated system verified it. No human reviewed it. The account opened in 3 business days. He stocked his operatories. He hired a receptionist. He turned the sign on the door to open. His first documented patient was Lynette Garfield, a 29-year-old medical billing specialist from Panthersville. She came in on January 14, 2018, seeking 4 composite veneers on her upper front teeth. She paid $1,600. Brandon had watched the procedure dozens of times in Chamblee. She left satisfied and referred 2 friends the following month. That was the thing about Brandon Drummond. He was not incompetent across every dimension. For basic cosmetic work, whitening, composite bonding on front teeth, his results were often passable. Patients posted reviews. His Instagram following grew. By mid-2019, he was seeing 8 to 10 patients per week. He expanded his service menu to include what his website called non-surgical gum contouring, a soft tissue procedure requiring clinical training and the capacity to safely administer local anesthetic. He added full-arch porcelain packages priced at $14,000. He performed extractions on patients who presented with problem teeth, using instruments he had learned to identify by name in Chamblee and techniques he had learned from YouTube. He opened 3 business accounts across 2 banks. Revenue was processed through a Square terminal and a separate Stripe account. He paid staff in cash. He paid his lease in cash. He filed business tax returns showing gross revenues of approximately $180,000 per year. His actual collections, reconstructed later by federal forensic accountants, averaged over $900,000 annually. $3.87 million in a strip mall with a forged diploma on the wall. The complications started quietly. A patient whose composite veneers delaminated sought treatment elsewhere. A patient who had an extraction performed by Brandon presented at an oral surgeon's office in Tucker with retained bone fragments requiring secondary surgical removal. A patient who underwent what Brandon's intake form called soft tissue contouring developed significant gum recession. 7 patients sought corrective treatment at other practices between 2019 and 2021. 2 filed formal complaints with the Georgia Dental Board. The complaints were logged, but filings without a verified license number triggered a secondary administrative review before investigation could begin. It delayed action by months, then by more months. In early 2021, Dr. Carolyn Reese at Tucker Smiles Family Dentistry examined a patient and found improperly bonded composite work causing measurable gum recession. Her patient told her where the work had been done. Dr. Reese filed a formal referral with the board in March 2021. It was logged. It sat in the same backlog as the 2 prior complaints. Nothing moved. For 11 more months, Brandon Drummond worked 5 days a week, collected payments in cash, and drove home to Stone Mountain in a Mercedes-Benz GLE he had purchased outright in August 2020. In February 2022, the Georgia Dental Board launched a targeted complaint sweep, a batch audit of unresolved consumer filings related to cosmetic dental providers accumulated over the prior 18 months. The board assigned the backlog to Agent Simone Brower. Brower pulled the 3 complaints associated with Drummond Aesthetic Dental Studio. She ran license number 018847 against the board's active licensure database. It returned a result she did not expect. The number belonged to Gerald Mott, DDS, a periodontist in Augusta, Georgia. Status: retired, effective September 2019. Address of record: a residential property in Richmond County. The address on file for the complaints: a commercial strip mall on Covington Highway in Decatur. Brower cross-referenced the board's online practitioner directory. No listing for a Brandon Drummond. No listing for Drummond Aesthetic Dental Studio. Nothing. She sent a written request to the practice for a copy of the treating dentist's credentials. The request was routine. Brandon received it. He was advised to send the diploma. It looked real, he was told. They never check, he was told. He faxed a scan of the framed diploma from his waiting room. The diploma read, University of Tennessee College of Dentistry, Doctor of Dental Surgery, conferred May 2013. Brower contacted UT's Office of the Registrar. The Registrar's office confirmed that the University of Tennessee College of Dentistry had not conferred any degrees in May of 2013. The May 2013 commencement ceremony had been canceled due to water damage in the primary academic building. All spring graduates had received their degrees at a rescheduled ceremony in August 2013. The diploma in Drummond's waiting room was dated a month that did not exist in UT's graduation record. The registrar further confirmed that no degree had ever been conferred to anyone named Brandon Drummond by the University of Tennessee College of Dentistry. The print format on the scanned diploma, examined by a documents examiner, predated UT's credential redesign in 2014, meaning the physical diploma had been fabricated using a template no longer in use by the institution. At the time, it claimed to have been printed. Brower escalated to the board's enforcement division within 24 hours. The referral went to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The GBI contacted the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. A joint investigative team was assembled within the week. For 6 weeks, investigators documented patient intake volume and payment processing from outside the building. On March 9, 2022, GBI agents executed a search warrant on Drummond Aesthetic Dental Studio. They seized dental instruments stored in non-sterile conditions, patient intake files going back to January 2018, 3 external hard drives containing patient photographs and payment records, business account documentation, and the framed diploma, carefully removed from the wall, photographed in place, bagged as evidence. Financial forensics reconstructed Brandon's actual revenue from Square transaction records, Stripe account history, and all 3 business bank accounts. $3,870,000. Collected from 341 patients over 4 years. His tax filings had reported $720,000 over the same period. Chanel Dupre, Brandon's unlicensed dental assistant, cooperated fully under an immunity agreement. Her recorded statement described watching Brandon perform extractions on at least 4 occasions. She described 2 specific cases where patients left the office with significant active bleeding, and Brandon had instructed her to tell them it was normal post-procedure response. She stated she had asked Brandon directly, on 2 separate occasions, whether he was a licensed dentist. On both occasions, he had pointed to the diploma on the waiting room wall. Investigators also recovered text messages from Brandon's personal phone between him and an unidentified contact in the days before his arrest. February 28th, Brandon. Board called again, asking about my license number. What do I do? February 28th, contact. Don't respond yet. February 28th, Brandon. They asking for a copy of the diploma. March 1st, Contact. Send it. It looks real. March 1st. Brandon. What if they check it? March 1st. Contact. They never check it. March 3rd. Brandon. She's calling again. Of the 341 documented patients, 47 experienced complications directly attributable to Brandon's procedures. Gum tissue damage, delaminated composite work, and in 2 cases, retained bone fragments requiring follow-up surgical removal by licensed oral surgeons at out-of-pocket costs. The patients had no recourse to recover. Stories like this one rarely get the attention they deserve. If you want to see more accountability coverage, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We cover the cases that mainstream media walks past every week. The agents arrived at 10:47 in the morning. Brandon was in operatory 2, mid-procedure, leaning over a patient named Tamara Wynn with a rotary polishing tool in his hand. His white lab coat had Dr. B. Drummond embroidered on the breast pocket. His dental loops were pushed up on his forehead. He did not hear the agents enter the reception area until one of them filled the doorframe of the operatory. He clicked off the polishing tool. He removed his gloves, one at a time. He looked at the officer. Officer, OS, firm. Brandon Drummond, step away from the patient, sir. Brandon, voice rising. I'm in the middle of a procedure. I can't just... Officer, OS, stepping closer. Sir, step back now. Brandon, indignant, gesturing wildly. You can't walk into my office like this. I have rights. I have a license. Agent Brower, ice cold. Sir, that license belongs to a retired dentist in Augusta, Georgia. Step away from the patient. Brandon, voice dropping, desperate. Listen, she came in voluntarily. I have consent forms. Everything is documented. Agent Brower, losing patience. Mr. Drummond, last time, step away. Brandon looked at Tamara Wynn. She was sitting up in the reclined chair, retractor still in her mouth, eyes wide. He looked back at Brower. His hands came up, not in surrender, in desperation. Tamara Wynn was escorted to the waiting room. The receptionist was asked to inform the remaining patients that the practice was temporarily closed. 3 people gathered their things and left without being told why. Brandon stood in the empty operatory while agents began photographing the room around him. He looked at the framed diploma on the wall. He had hung it there himself 4 years ago, on a Tuesday morning before his first patient arrived. I never hurt anyone. That's what you people don't understand. I never hurt anyone. No one responded. The grand jury for the Northern District of Georgia returned a 114-count indictment against Brandon Elias Drummond on April 14, 2022. 28 counts of wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1343. 41 counts of healthcare fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1347, stemming from insurance claims submitted using Gerald Mott's license number. 31 state counts of unlicensed practice of dentistry under Georgia Code Section 431117, 9 counts of aggravated assault, 5 counts of identity theft. His attorney, Reginald Fountain, argued that Brandon had operated in a regulatory gray area, services marketed as cosmetic, not clinical. Judge Yvonne Slade rejected the argument. Extracting teeth, administering anesthetics, and performing soft tissue procedures fell unambiguously within Georgia's statutory definition of dentistry, regardless of what a website called them. The verdict came back guilty on all counts after 2 days of deliberation. Before sentencing, the court heard from 12 patients. Loretta Nwankwo, a 41-year-old public school teacher from Clarkston, had paid $9,200 for a full set of porcelain veneers. 3 delaminated within 4 months. 2 caused gum recession, requiring corrective surgery at a cost of $7,400. Paid out of pocket on a teacher's salary because Brandon Drummond carried no malpractice insurance because Brandon Drummond was not a dentist. You sat across from me and told me my smile was going to change my life. And it did. Just not the way you said. Judge Slade spoke for 9 minutes before pronouncing sentence. Mr. Drummond, patients came to you because they trusted that the system had verified you were qualified to treat them. You exploited that trust with a forged credential and a stolen license number and a waiting room designed to replicate the appearance of legitimacy. The physical harm sustained by the patients in this case was not incidental to your scheme. It was the predictable consequence of unqualified hands performing clinical procedures on human beings. You knew exactly what you were not. You knew it every day you walked through that door. And you did it anyway, for 4 years, for nearly $4 million. Brandon Elias Drummond was sentenced to 96 months in federal prison, 8 years, 3 years of supervised release, restitution of $3,870,000, all dental equipment forfeited. He is currently serving his sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution in Jessup, Georgia, a medium security facility in Wayne County, 200 miles southeast of the strip mall in Decatur, where he practiced for 4 years. His projected release date is 2029. Gerald Mott, the retired Augusta periodontist whose license number Brandon had used without his knowledge, was issued a formal board letter of clearance. He had been retired for 3 years. He had no idea. Chanel Dupre completed her community service under the immunity agreement and enrolled in an accredited dental assisting program at Georgia Piedmont Technical College in 2023. The Georgia Dental Board issued emergency rule guidance closing the regulatory gap that had allowed practitioners to market clinical procedures under cosmetic branding without triggering oversight. The guidance specifically named the veneer tech industry. Drummond Aesthetic Dental Studio closed permanently on March 9, 2022. The suite on Covington Highway was released 7 months later to a licensed family dental practice. The diploma is in a federal evidence locker. That case took 4 years to unravel. The next case on your screen right now, the warning signs were there from day one. Nobody looked. Click it.